Hey YouTube, this is Mad Movie Mark, another Mad Movie Mark movie review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 1944 musical Meet Me in St. Louis.
Don't use that impudent tone.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean anything by it. I am simply just reviewing all the movies that have 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I'll give them all a score of 1 to 10. After I score them all, I will rank them from worst to best. I started in the 1920 silent movie era, and now I'm at 1944 with Meet Me in St. Louis. So this movie stars Judy Garland as Esther, Margaret O'Brien as Tootie, Lucille Brenner as Rose, and Leon Ames as Mr. Alonzo Smith. There are other people, but I'm going to mostly be talking about these four in this review. It has 100% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics and 80% fresh rating from the audience. It won Best Juvenile Award at the Oscars for Margaret O'Brien, which I didn't even know existed. It was nominated for Best Writing Screenplay, Best Cinematography for a Color Movie, Best Musical Score for a Musical Movie, and Best Music Original Song for the Trolley Song. So, like I said, it has an 80% fresh rating from the audience and 100% fresh rating from the critics. So, what is this movie about? Essentially, this movie follows a family in St. Louis. It's St. Louis, but they call it St. Louis, so I'm just going to continue to call it that. So it's in St. Louis. It's about a family. There's a mother, a father, I believe four daughters, and then a maid as well, and a grandfather. So it is a pretty big family, but they live in a pretty big house. So when the movie opens up, we are introduced to basically the entire family. I believe the daughters and the grandpa, and they're singing the song "Meet Me in St. Louis," and they're basically doing just their normal day-to-day things, singing "Meet Me in St. Louis." And then we are shown the maid of the house, and then Esther. The maid and Esther are talking. They need to be able to eat dinner an hour early today. Now this is a big deal because the father, who is like the breadwinner of the family, he is, this is a traditional family from the 1940s where the father works and then the mother and everyone else stays at home. So he apparently works a very hard day. He comes home, he's very tired, and every day he wants to eat at like 6:30 at night. And they know this is going to cause an issue, but their idea is to say that the maid's sister is in some sort of distress and she needs to go and see her, so they need to eat an hour early so she can get out early. So when the husband comes home, he's tired and he sees two of his daughters, including Esther, singing "Meet Me in St. Louis." They're singing it again the second time so far in the movie that they're singing "Meet Me in St. Louis." And he sits down and he like is rusty. He's like, "Why can't everyone just go to St. Louis and leave me alone?"
I wish everybody would meet at the fair and leave me alone.
Which is probably one of the funniest lines I've heard in a while since I've started this list that I've been doing. Just the way he says it and the way it's framed, it's a hilarious line that he has. But he says he's going to go upstairs and take a bath and that he'll be down at 6:30. And the girls say, 6:30? We're eating at 5:30 today. And he says, what? Is my watch off? Why would we be eating at 5:30? And they tell him, oh, well, the maid's sister is in some distress and she needs to go see her. And, maids are very expensive now and she works very cheap. And he says, I don't care what it costs. We can get a new maid. I'm eating at 6:30 today.
Alonzo, we're planning on eating an hour earlier tonight.
The plans have just been changed. I'm taking a bath.
So he plays sort of when I watched National Velvet, that was the father who wanted to have like some authority over his family, but actually didn't. But in this movie, the father does have more authority. He is like the authoritative figure of this family. So everyone just says, okay, well, I guess we'll eat at 6:30. So the reason why they needed to eat at 5:30 is because Rose has been seeing this guy named Warren for a while. Rose is the eldest sister of the family, and she is at this point in the 1940s where she is basically considered an old maid because she's not married yet. Warren is supposed to call her long distance at a specific time, I think like 5:30. That's why they want her at 6:30. That's why they wanted to end dinner early. And he's going to call her long distance. And for some reason, they think that since she's older and that he's calling long distance, that there's like a big reason for this, because not everyone called long distance back then, that he's going to propose to her.
Blame your sister.
Blaming her? We're doing this for her. You know Rose's problem. Warren Sheffield's been writing to her for 6 months without one word that even smells like a proposal.
So they end up having the dinner, and he ends up calling, and she answers the phone, and they're like yelling at each other. Apparently back then, like when the phone system was in its infancy, you had to yell at each other.
Hello, Warren. Yes, I'm fine. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine, Rose. How's St. Louis?
What did you say?
I said, how's St. Louis?
I don't know, but there's clearly a different agenda here for both of them. So he thinks that it's really cool that they're talking on the phone, that they're talking long distance, and that they're far away from each other. And that's basically why he called, because he just thinks that it's like really fun to talk on the phone and to be able to talk to someone who's not right near you. And she obviously thought he was going to propose to her. So, you know, for her, it's kind of a disaster. And she basically ends the phone call knowing that he's not going to propose. Now, at the same time, Esther is starting to fall for this guy named John Truitt, who is the next door neighbor. So she tries to, woo him over, and there's going to be some sort of party or get together that they're hosting. And she says, "I'm going to let him kiss me at this get together," even though she has like no idea that this is actually going to happen.
Would you mind accompanying me through the house while I turn out the lights? No, it's here.
But like in her mind, this is going to happen, and like this is what's going to be. So they at some point in the movie, this is later on in the movie, she's supposed to meet him. Esther, I believe, is supposed to meet John on a trolley. So she ends up getting on the trolley.
Are we all here?
Oh, just too bad for those that aren't. Time, tide, and trolley wait for no man. Let her go, motorman.
And this is the introduction. This is when the trolley song starts. Now, I've known about the trolley song my whole life. I used to annoy my mom singing the trolley song, and I had no idea where I heard it from. I still don't know, and I did not know that it was in this movie. I didn't even know it was in a movie. So when they start singing the trolley song, it's like, I start getting memories of singing this to my mom back when I was young. So it's a really cool scene, and Judy Garland's voice is absolutely amazing. I'll get to that later. But she gets on the trolley and he's not there, but then he eventually like comes on the trolley and they start singing to each other. And that's basically this portion of the movie. Then we move to Halloween. So one thing about this movie is that it's not really like a Halloween movie. It's not a Christmas movie. The main focus of this movie and what everyone is after is to go to the state fair in the state fair in St. Louis. The St. Louis World Fair. And from where they start in the movie, it's like 7 or 8 months down the road because it's in spring and they don't start the movie in spring. So this movie gradually moves to spring and goes through Halloween and Christmas as it's getting there. So the Halloween scene comes up, and the Halloween scene, I will say Halloween is one of my favorite holidays. My wife and I were married on Halloween, so we both share this love of Halloween, of dressing up, of like really going out with decorations all out and everything. And this Halloween is very peculiar. So the youngest daughter, Truitt, she and I think one of the other daughters or a friend, they go out trick-or-treating, and they're dressed up as like ghosts, like they call each other dead ghost or something. So when they get outside, there's a big fire, and it's like someone's wagon or carriage or something that's just burning on fire, and these kids are like all around it, like throwing more wood on the fire. So they've apparently stolen this wagon or this carriage or whatever, and they're burning it on fire. And then they tell Truitt that they're going to go to this guy's house and throw flour at his face and say they hate him, which I'm guessing this is supposed to be Halloween pranks, but the destruction of this property is, I don't know, I was kind of taken aback by this. In 1944, it seems like this is a family movie. Was this done all the time? I don't know. It seems kind of peculiar that they're not trick-or-treating. They're just trying to cause chaos. And they're doing it in front of Judy's house. Her parents are there. They see the fire, and it doesn't matter. They don't like blink an eye. So maybe this is just something that was done. So Judy decides that she's going to take it upon herself to go to this guy's house and throw a flower in his face. And everyone thinks that she's too young, she shouldn't do this alone, that she's going to get just absolutely, like she's going to get in trouble for doing this. But she decides to do it anyway. And she goes to his house, and the camera while she's going to his house is like her level, her eye level. So it looks like, I mean, the way they film it is absolutely incredible. That it looks like, I mean, the camera's all obviously lower and you're walking with her. Very well done. So she throws the flower in his face, and then she goes back to her friends, and they all applaud her and say she's the queen of Halloween or whatever. But then tragedy strikes. The family is told that she is very injured.
Yes, it's Truitt. I thought I heard Judy scream. Oh, she's down by the trolley.
Oh, don't be happy. Somebody.
Something happened to her near the train track, and she's very injured. So they bring her home. Like, okay, this is finally going to be like where this movie picks up, because until this part of the movie, the only real struggle in this movie was kind of the normal teenage angst growing up stuff where you really want to be with someone, you want a relationship with someone, and you feel a certain way, and maybe they feel a different way, and that push and pull and that tug of trying to get this person to like you, and just the regular teenage stuff. So that's all the like real conflict there was until this point. So I'm like, okay, this is where like the movie, maybe it gets kind of dark a little bit. So Trudy is laying on the couch or on the bed, and they're asking her like, what happened to you? And she says that John Truitt like basically did this to her. John Truitt tried to kill her. And they're like, no, you must be mistaken. Like, John Truitt didn't try to kill you. What actually happened? So she says again, like, John Truitt tried to kill me.
No, it wasn't the streetcar. It was John Truitt. He tried to kill me.
So Esther, who's falling in love with John Truitt at this point, rushes over to his house and starts like hitting him and like beating him. And then she gets back to the house and she says, don't worry about John Truitt. I just beat him up. Well, Trudy eventually comes and tells the truth that they were trying to stuff like a bag of, like a duffel bag or something full of stuff and throw it in front of the train like it was a body. So that way the people on the train would think that they hit a body. But John Truitt apparently saw this was happening and like took them away and tried to, it seems like to me, he was trying to help them. And she says that he hurt her. So she ends up telling the truth. Esther goes back over there and apologizes and says she's like very sorry that she didn't know what was going on. And then nothing happens to Trudy. It's like, okay, after that happens, we completely forget that Trudy did anything wrong. So after this happens, there's a scene where it's a Christmas scene. I believe that we're at the Christmas scene now, where the father tells the family that he has great news, that his company is sending them to New York. And they're going to have to live in New York, and that's where they're going to stay, and they're going to be happy.
The firm is sending me to New York.
Is that all?
You don't understand. They're sending me to New York for good, to be head of the New York office of Fenton, Rayburn and Company.
Now, the family, of course, is against this because Rose is trying to have a life with Warren, and Esther is trying to, build a life with John Truitt. They're trying to attract each other. The kid, Trudy, is in school. Even Rose is in, like, her final year of high school or whatever. So they're very against this, but he says, no, this is how it's going to be. I am the father. I'm trying to make a better life for you. So we are moving to New York. So then we get a Christmas scene. At some point, John Truitt proposes to Esther.
I never asked a girl to marry me before. Esther, will you? Will you, Esther?
Of course I will, John.
And she accepts the proposal. And then Trudy is feeling really down, so she's kind of in her room and she's worried that Santa Claus won't, or when she gets her gifts from Santa Claus, that maybe she won't be able to move with them. And she's, she's just in a very low point because she really loves where she lives and she doesn't want to move and she's upset. And then Esther ends up singing to Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas to her. And then Judy goes outside and starts like destroying the snowmen. And just crying that she doesn't want to move, that she loves this place and she never wants to leave. So the father sees this and he decides, he has a family meeting and he decides, we're not gonna move, family. I know that you guys really wanted this, but you didn't understand the ramifications of moving. But don't worry, I'm the father, I know best, and I can see that this is a bad idea, so I'm going to do you guys a favor. I know you really wanted to move. I'm going to do you a favor, and we're not going to move.
Hey, we're not moving to New York, and I don't want to hear a word about it. We're going to stay right here. We're going to stay here till we rot.
So that's the side. And then as he's giving the speech about them not moving, Warren comes in and he proposes to, actually he doesn't propose to Rose. He just said, we're going to get married and there's really nothing you can do about it.
Rose Smith, we can't go on like this any longer. I've positively decided we are going to get married at the earliest opportunity, and I don't want to hear any arguments.
So she's fine with that because she wanted to get married. And then at the end of the movie, they go to the fair in St. Louis. And that's pretty much the entire movie. Not a whole lot of plot here. You expect this from a musical. I mean, when we saw Top Hat and when I saw other movies like that, there wasn't quite a bit of plot there either. So this is kind of that same way where there's not a whole lot of plot. The movie is really carried by the singing and the musical pieces. So that's probably what defines the movie more than the plot here. So what do I think about the movie? Well, first and foremost, Judy Garland is the star of this movie. She is the best part of this movie by far. If she wasn't in this movie would, I would assume, not have 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it would not be great at all. So there's 3 songs in this movie that I recognize that I really enjoy. They are Skip to My Lou, the Trolley song, and Have Yourself a Merry Christmas. Skip to My Lou, I thought this was, I first heard Skip to My Lou on an episode of I Love Lucy where they're trying to get their passports and she accidentally locks herself in a trunk, and this doctor who's trying to try to positively identify her as Lucille McGillicuddy is singing Skip to My Lou. I didn't know that this was actually like part of a movie or that it was anything else. I just thought this was something they did for I Love Lucy. So I was excited to hear that song. Like I said, the Trolley song is a song I've always known. And of course, Have Yourself a Merry Christmas. Everyone knows that song. So the songs in this movie are fantastic. And Judy Garland singing them, she has the voice of an absolute angel. Even when she's singing Meet Me in St. Louis, fantastic. Like, she lights up this movie she lights up this movie like no one else can. The other people in this movie who are singing, I believe not all of them are using their original voice. I think there's other people who are singing for them, sort of like West Side Story, where none of them use their original voices. But even bringing someone in and singing for the other cast members, they just can't hold a candle to Judy Garland. And you really see this when the other people are trying to sing with her, and she's not just singing by herself, and you have 1 or 2 other people who are joining in with her, that she, they just sound horrible compared to her. And I don't know, maybe they could have gotten, I don't know if you could get anyone that could have equaled her, but they didn't really come that close at all. As far as the plot goes, I think it's okay. So it's a lot. The only issue I have with this, an issue I have with a lot of the movies like I've seen, like the Philadelphia Story or something like that, it's like these people are rich, and they're living like rich. They're having normal problems that everyone would have, where they're falling in love and they're trying to they're trying to earn the love of someone else and all of this, but they're doing it in like a very extravagant house that apparently they have a lot of money. So, I mean, they're problems, but they're not really problems I'm sure everyone faced back then. So I wish I could have seen this movie from like a poor person's perspective instead of just a bunch of rich people having, some rich problems. Even later on when they're moving to New York, I mean, they already have a really fantastic house. And the father says, I'm trying to make a better life for my family. I'm trying to make as much money as I can to make a good life for my family. But they already seem to have a pretty good life. So I'm not sure what he's talking about. And if he moved to New York, they would make even more money. But it seems like they're doing fine the way they are. So there's not a whole lot of conflict in this movie. Even in the Halloween scene, the conflict ends really, it's pretty much mopped up pretty quickly. And no one has any like bad wishes or bad feelings towards each other. They all just go on and live as if nothing happened. So that was kind of off-putting, and I'm really getting a little tired of the movies where people just like are flamboyantly rich and they're just like they don't really have real world problems. I mean, sure, these are real world problems, but they can be fixed pretty easily. They're not the problems that normal everyday people have. But besides that, I thought the music was great. I thought the cinematography was really good. The musical numbers are really good. You know, and the trolley song to be an original song, I thought was very good as well. You know, it's missing a lot of like meat on the bones here, where there's not a whole lot going on. There's you know, it's just kind of a fun family movie, but you know, you never really feel like anything of importance is really happening ever. You know, but you know, it's a good movie. It's a nice little musical. It's a fun movie, and I'm going to end up giving it an 8 out of 10. Thank you, and I hope you join me for my next movie, Rome Open City. Have a great day.